Fuck you, Mother Nature. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to today's edition of The Fuel, where today we'll be reviewing the GoBowling.com 235 at the Daytona Road Course, which had a lot of hype behind it, but didn't quite live up to expectations, I will say. It did at first. I mean, the first stage was pretty good, but then it just started going downhill, and then in that third stage it looked like there was some rain that was going to be going over the speedway, and it's like, oh my god, you know. And then had that lightning delay, but it still looked like there was going to be some rain coming in, and then the goddamn storm dissipates, and it's like Mother Nature is just trolling, like, ha ha, well, here's a little something for you, Mother Nature. How about that? Fuck you. Man, the first ever Cup Series rain race would have taken this race from a little bit above average at best to a classic. But we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that first Cup rain race. Not really all that much in the way of news stories as far as NASCAR is concerned. There was one big one that happened, but I'll be covering that in the review, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so let's get this shindig started. The GoBowling.com 235 at the Daytona Road Course. Historic event because this is the first ever points paying race on the infield road course of Daytona. So as a result, the stages were 15 laps for stages 1 and 2, and then the third and final stage was 35 laps. So it was a 65 lap race total. I don't recall ever seeing a Cup Series race with a lap count that low. But that's what happens when you have a 3.61 mile road course, which I think is one of the longest road courses that NASCAR has ever been on. The longest one they've ever been on for a Cup Series points race was all the way back in 1956 when they tackled Road America. But they haven't tackled a circuit this long in a long time, and it proved to be brutal because there were 11 Truck Series drivers that needed to go to the infield care center after the race, and Ty Majeski had to go to the local hospital because he was showing signs of heat exhaustion. And heat exhaustion is nothing to fuck around with, I can personally tell you. That's basically when your body loses the ability to cool itself, and it literally feels like you're frying from the inside out. So, but he was released from the hospital in good condition, so that's good news. So let's go ahead and get into this. Harvick started from the pole due to the new formula for determining starting position. Hamlin took the lead from Harvick at the International Horseshoe. And then Kyle Busch gets by Harvick as well and moves up to second. Hamlin leads lap 1, but Kyle Busch passes Hamlin for the lead in the bus stop for a first pure lead change on lap 2. Then Hamlin gets back by Kyle for the lead around the outside of turn 1. So we have our second pure lead change on lap 3. Kyle Busch was actually locking up going into the front stretch chicane, and he actually did that a couple of times, and he had to pit for a flat spot on the left front tire. Truex starts trying to close the gap on his teammate Hamlin for the race lead, and then he takes the lead in the infield section. Hamlin tries to take it back, but crinkles the left front fender after contact with Truex, and he has to pit to change tires and fix the left front damage, which everybody was going to pit for tires and fuel before the end of the stage anyway, because, you know, it's a road course, so you're going to work it backwards. So we had our third pure lead change on lap 10. Isn't it sad that in the first 10 laps of this race, we had more pure lead changes than the second Michigan race last week? Unbelievable. Drivers start making green flag pit stops for the end of the stage. Truex pits from the lead on lap 14. Bowman with a flat left rear tire on the last lap of stage 1. Chase Elliott stays out and wins stage 1. So, like I said, very clean and competitive. There weren't that many cautions in this race, which was a huge surprise. Those who did not stop under green would come in under the stage break. And Truex actually stalled in the bus stop. You know how you shut the engine off to conserve fuel, and it wouldn't refire at first, so he lost a couple positions there. And Joey Logano leads the start of stage 2. Hamlin gets by Logano at the kink to retake the race lead. Logano starts falling like a rock because he was on old tires. He had not pitted yet. Truex gets by Harvick for second at the International Horseshoe. Had some lots of battling in the mid-pack as Truex once again closes in on Hamlin for the lead. Brennan Poole spins exiting the front stretch chicane but gets back going again, no caution. Truex has a run on Hamlin in normal turn 3, which is, you know, they're coming out of the backstretch chicane into turn 3 for the lead, and he gets it for a 4th pure lead change on lap 22. Elliott gets by Blaney for 5th at the International Horseshoe. And we had a big gaggle of cars fighting at the bottom half of the top 10, which included Boyer and Keselowski. Kyle Busch spins it, exiting the infield section, but gets back going. He actually wheel hopped it quite a bit. Drivers started pitting before the stage end, of course. Rain, then they showed the rain in the distance, and I'm thinking to myself, oh boy. You know, I was kind of rubbing my hands together like, yes, let's see it. And then Truex, he comes in for his pit stop, but gets caught speeding. Ouch. And because he came in right before the pits closed, he wouldn't be able to serve his drive-through penalty, so he would have to actually go to the tail end of the longest line for stage 3. That sucks. So Hamlin wins stage 2 as a result, and I was surprised that we had gone caution-free at this point. So drivers come in for service, then we start stage number 3 with Chase Elliott in the lead. Kevin Harvick gets spun by Christopher Bell going into the International Horseshoe. How he was not clobbered by anybody is beyond me. And then we had our first caution on lap 36 for lightning, of course. So we had to have a 30-minute lightning delay. And for the longest time, it looked like we were going to get some rain on the racetrack, and they had approved to use rain tires for this race. So I was like, all right, let's see a rain race. And then, like I said at the beginning, the goddamn system dissipated right before it got to Daytona International Speedway. What a fucking cock tease, man. So at that point, my interest was starting to dwindle in the race because, you know, it was starting to go downhill after, you know, an excellent first stage. You know, and then we get to stage 3, and I was thinking we were going to get rain, and we didn't. All we got was a fucking lightning delay. So frustrating, man. Elliott leads on the restart. He pretty much led the rest of the race. I mean, except the exchange of pit stops, but I mean, that was basically it. Johnson and Kyle Busch gets by McDowell for 3rd and 4th, so Kyle Busch recovered nicely at this point. Elliott was already out to a 2.5 second lead. Kyle Busch gets by Johnson for 3rd, and then by his brother Kurt for 2nd. Johnson gets by Kurt for 3rd. Harvick spins at the infield exit, but gets refired and back going again. I gotta say, this has been the most trouble that Harvick has been in all season long. And he still ended up 17th despite all his troubles. So, I mean, that just goes to show you how good Harvick's been this year. Had a great battle for 5th between Boyer, Hamlin, and McDowell. Boyer and Hamlin gets by Kurt Busch for 4th and 5th. Hamlin gets by Boyer for 4th. Elliott pits from the lead on lap 48. And Kyle Busch's good run comes to an end with a brake rotor issue. So, you know, probably wondering, would I give Kyle Busch the reject of the race, especially what happened a little bit later on? No, because I'm not going to give him reject of the race for something that was out of his control. Truex stays out to inherit the race lead, but pits with 15 laps to go. We have a great battle for 4th between Hamlin and Johnson. Elliott cycles back to the lead, which is 11 seconds at this point. Bell spins in turn 3, but gets it back going again. Then we have our second caution on lap 60 when Kyle Busch loses a left rear tire. Actually lost both rear tires and spins on the back stretch. So, I mean, he was facing oncoming traffic, in one of the fastest parts of the track. I mean, they had no choice but to throw the full course yellow. So Elliott leads on the restart with 3 laps to go. Buscher challenges for a top 5 spot, which was really surprising. Truex moves up to 4th, and then Denny Hamlin really put some pressure on Elliott for this race win. I mean, he was laying it on thick, but you know, you gotta give Chase Elliott credit. I mean, he held firm. Truex gets by Johnson for 3rd on the last lap, and Hamlin tried one more maneuver. Tried to get to that rear bumper on at the front stretch chicane, but Elliott holds him at bay to win the Go Bowling 235 on the Daytona road course. His 8th career win, and half of those have been on road courses, and he has won the last 3 road course races in the Cup Series. He's become the new road course ace. That much is obvious. And that's basically it. So, lead change count, we had 13 overall lead changes in this race, which was more than the second Michigan race, which only had, I think, 12. It was 12 or 10, I can't remember, but either way, it was fewer overall lead changes than this race, and this race had fewer laps to work with. That's embarrassing. And also had more pure lead changes, and in this case 4, although the last of those was in the second stage. We didn't have any in the final stage, which was fucking boring as shit, at least until the final 3 laps, so that elevated it a little bit. But star of the race, now you would think it would go to Chase Elliott, you know, for a dominating win. Nah. Would I give it to Truex? Well, he would have been a contender, except I gave it to him last week at the Michigan doubleheader. A crazy stat, he finished 3rd in this race, which is his 5th consecutive 3rd place finish. No joke. He's finished 3rd the last 5 Cup races. That's insane. Would I give it to Chris Buescher, who finished in the top 5 in this race? No. What I'm going to do instead is I am going to give star of the race to Kaz Grala for his 7th place effort. And the reason why I'm doing that is because he was basically thrust into the Roberto Moreno role, the super sub role, in the 3 car, because Austin Dillon was diagnosed with COVID-19 earlier this week. What are you doing, sissy? Fucking cat in the background. But yeah, Austin Dillon was diagnosed with COVID-19 earlier this week. So Kaz Grala basically had to fill in for him this week at the Daytona road course, and came home in 7th position despite no practice whatsoever. I don't know about you, but that's pretty fucking impressive, in my opinion. So he definitely deserves star of the race this week. As for reject of the race, well, that's an easy one. Mother Nature. Mother Nature can go fuck off. You know, because you gave us a fucking lightning delay. We would have had our first Cup rain race in this race, and you decided to just give us a lightning delay. So Mother Nature, you can fuck yourself. You're the reject of this race. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's go to the race results and the point standings, and we'll be done. Alright, so top 10 finishers. Look at this top 10. Chase Elliott, of course, with the win. He led 34 to 65 laps. Denny Hamlin comes home in 2nd. Martin Truex Jr., of course, like I said, came home in the 3rd position for the 5th consecutive race. Jimmy Johnson comes home in 4th. Finally, a good run for that 48 car. Chris Buescher comes home in the 5th position. I believe that's his best finish of the season. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Clint Boyer in 6th. Kaz Grala, of course, like I said, he actually even led 3 laps, although I think those were on the exchange of green flag pit stops. But be that as it may, very impressive performance by Grala in the super sub role. William Byron coming home in 8th. Joey Logano in 9th. And then Michael McDowell in the 34 car comes home with a 10th place finish. So good run for the Front Row Motorsports team. All right, top 20 in the points. With Kevin Harvick's 17th place finish, he does lose his grip on the points lead just a teensy bit. He just won't clinch after the first Dover race, at least not yet. But he still has a 118-point lead over Denny Hamlin, so the odds of him clinching the regular season title are still virtually a lock at this moment. Brad Keselowski's third. Chase Elliott moves up to fourth with his win. Ryan Blaney is in fifth. Logano in the sixth position. Martin Truex Jr. in seventh. Eric Almirola continues to hold down the top spot among non-winners. He's eighth in the point standings. You have Kurt Busch in ninth, and Kyle Busch, despite all of his troubles that he's had this year, still has not won a race. He's still 10th in the points. I mean, there are a lot of teams that would kill to be in that position right now, but for the defending champion, it's definitely been an off year. Rest of the top 20, you have Clint Bowyer, Alex Bowman, who has just completely fallen off the map. Matt DiBenedetto, William Byron, who holds the final spot in the playoff at the moment, because Austin Dillon and Cole Custer have one win apiece, so they are locked in. And Austin Dillon will receive a medical waiver to participate in the playoff because of the COVID situation. So Jimmy Johnson is 25 points out. He's the last one out, or the first one out, I should say. Eric Jones in 16th in points, realistically 18th. Then you have Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, of course, who is 18th at the moment. Of course, has the COVID-19 shit. Christopher Bell in the 19th position, so he's moved up into the top 20. And then Cole Custer, his Rookie of the Year rival, rounds out the top 20 in the point standings. As for my final rating for this race was super hyped, and in my opinion, it didn't live up to the expectations. It was still a slightly above average race, but man, what a missed opportunity with that fucking rainstorm. If the rains would have come, I think this would have turned into an instant classic. But I mean, it's still going to be considered an historic race because, it was the first time ever on the Daytona road course for a points race. But that's really all anybody's going to remember from this race, because there wasn't anything else that made it memorable. So my final rating for this race, 5.5 out of 10. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a lot better than a lot of races that we've seen recently, aka Michigan last week. But in terms of the hype, it definitely didn't live up to it, and that's a bummer. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of The Fuel. Next week is going to be a busy one because we've got the Dover doubleheader and the Indianapolis 500 this coming Sunday. Yep. So it's going to be a busy. It's going to be busy next week here on The Fuel. So thank you very much for watching. Excuse me. And until next time, this is the Packerman signing out. See you later. You better like and subscribe or face the consequences. You have been warned.